Today I'm going to teach you how to draw this cute watercolor cherries on Procreate if you are a beginner.
This is how I create a canvas. First you click on the plus sign and then you create the untitled canvas. You can click here if you want to create a canvas of your own. I'm going to take a rectangular shaped canvas, so I'm going to give the width as 4200 and the height as 3200, and I have these kind of rectangular canvas. Now I want to start by sketching, and as you know, I love sketching with a neutral gray color. And I go to the brushes, and from the sketching I will select either an HB pencil or a 6B pencil. I'll select a 6B pencil because it is softer, and I start by sketching out the cherries. I'm adding a leaf and I'm keeping it pretty loose at this point. As you can see, you can even shade if you want like this, but I'm going to do watercolor, so I don't really need to do that. And I'm going to erase off the pencil marks anyways later, so I'm keeping it pretty sketchy. Once I have the overall outline, I will go to layers and I'm going to reduce the opacity of this layer, and I'm going to create another layer on top of this layer, and I would like to start coloring. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to painting. There is already a brush called watercolor brush on Procreate. This is actually very light, so I only use it for backgrounds. So for this, since the cherry will be red, I'm going to select an opposite color in order to create contrast, and this is the color I will use to paint the background. This is part of the color theory. So I'm going to take a little bit of saturated teal color, and I've taken the watercolor brush and I'll start painting. So as you can see, you can increase the brush size a little bit and can create a bit of a background here. If I want, I can smudge out the sides. I'm going to use the same brush and smudge out the sides and make it more watery, if you may call it. And then I'm going to take the eraser, the Monoline. I like to do it because it's very clean. Just to increase the size, I'm just going to erase inside the cherries. And the leaf. do this. I'm going to take this. This time I'm going to go to artistic brush and I'm going to go to painting. I'm going to go to drawing and I'm going to select Monoline. And then without lifting your pen, you will start coloring the cherries. As you can see, I have kept a little bit of the cherry as white to make sure I can have some highlights later. And this is done by without lifting the pen. Now I'm going to just go over and do a little bit of shading. And once I have shaded with the same color, I'm going to go down a little bit. I'm going to take a more cooler red and a bit of a darker red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to alpha lock this layer. That means I can only paint on the parts that I have painted on. I cannot paint here, right? So the colors will only go on top of where I have already painted. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just adding a few shadows. And now I'm going to blend it out. So I'm going to smudge and I'm going back to drawing. Either you can take evolve brush. This is also, if you see, this is also a good watercolor brush. But I'm going to take the same brush, Monoline, and I'm going to very lightly, with a very light hand, I'm going to smudge it out a little bit. Oh, I have to take off the alpha lock. And I'm going to smudge this white as well. I'm going to increase the brush a little bit. I'm going to smudge it out. All right. You can draw or color the stems on the same layer, but I like to create another layer. And I'm going to select a green color. Actually a warmer green, a lighter yellowish green. And I'm going to take this. I'm going to take a different brush this time. I want to take this brush Oberon. This also gives a nice watercolor effect. I'm going to zoom in reduce the size of the brush, and I'm going to color in the stem. Alright, now again I'm going to do an alpha lock so that I can shade. So I'm going to take a more cooler green, taking a darker green, taking a smaller brush, and if I'm imagining the light is coming in this direction, the stems are rounder, so there will be shadows on both the sides of the stem, right? So that is what I'm going to do. Also, since the stem is carved, I'm just adding a bit of shadows on both the sides as well, on top and bottom as well. So right, looks pretty good. I'm going to take the alpha lock off, just go over this bar a little bit more. Now the leaf, and I love to always go over watercolor paintings with some pen, so I'm going to create a layer on top of all the layers. I'm going to take a darker, like almost black color, and I'm going to go to the inking section, and I'm going to select this brush, ink blade. This particular brush does look a lot like fine lined with watercolor, so I'll show you. Increase the size a little bit. Alright, there is one more trick that you can do in order to make this feel a lot more like watercolor. So what you have to do is, first you have to go to Chrome. I'm going to search for watercolor paper. So just take any of these textures and download it. I'm going to take something which is free. Something which is not marked as licensable. So maybe this one. Okay, it does have some watermark. This one. I'm going to save this image. I go back to Procreate, and on this I create a layer on top, and on this layer what I do is I go to this wrench symbol, I go to add, insert a photo, and I select this photo, and I'm going to pull it up to cover the whole canvas. Right. Then you change this one from normal to multiply, and then you go down in opacity a little bit, and there you have it. It looks exactly like watercolor.